Alright, welcome to episode 7 of Poets and Depression, Taking Space. I'll be honest, I wasn't too sure I felt like recording anything today. I'm not sure I still feel like recording anything, but here I am. Things are okay in the relative sense of things being okay. Had a medication management appointment just a little bit ago, and we talked about what's working, what's not working, how things are, and just kind of life in general and that kind of thing, So, overall, the depression seems to be more managed than it was. But one thing my psychiatric nurse mentioned to me was that my baseline is probably lower than most people's. So, my 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 baseline, my level, isn't quite as high. So that can mean that my normal isn't quite so high, which I believe, and I buy that, I get that, I understand that, I think that's accurate. But as he's always been keen to tell me, there is no magic happy pill, because there isn't. No amount of antidepressants or anything are going to make me suddenly happy. What they are allowing me to do is to help manage my depression and to keep the lows from being too low. Because that is one thing where my baseline is lower than normal. My lows are lower than normal, which means when I got depressed, I got really depressed. That's less the case now, but let's be real, let's be honest, I'm always going to have depression, I'm always going to be depressed. That is not going to go away. It's not. But medication is helping, therapy helps, writing helps, talking about it on this podcast helps. There are coping mechanisms, there are ways to mitigate and manage, and that's what you can ask for, that's what you can hope for, is to be able to manage your depression, manage your mental illness. And what's been an interesting side effect of that, of depression no longer being the sole emotion or the sole driver, as it were, is that other things come to light. I was having a conversation with Erica, my wife, the other day about how I felt like there's just something I'm supposed to be doing, like I'm forgetting something, and like I'm restless, and like I can't just sit down and relax because I feel like there's something I have to do. And she said, welcome to anxiety. Which is a little new for me. I felt anxious before. Obviously, everybody feels some level of anxiety and anxiousness. I think this is the first time I've really started to feel it without depression masking it. My depression was over everything. And so I experienced all my emotions through depression. And so I felt anxiety through depression. I felt everything through depression. One thing that's been interesting talking to my psychiatric nurse about medications and stuff like that is originally, when we started talking about this, we knew I was looking at medications for depression. But I've also had struggles with energy levels, constantly being tired, not being able to focus, not being able to have attention on things. One of the things that has been a big struggle, and has been even more apparent lately, is that I'll get things stuck in my head that I just suddenly have to do, regardless of anything else going on. Erica could be trying to have a really important conversation with me, and I will just be suddenly thinking, oh, I've got to finish this Threads post, or oh, I've got to put more soda or water in the fridge, or oh, I've got to go do this thing, because it's what's captured my mind, and it has to be done before anything else. And then the flip side of that, there's the other side of the executive dysfunction, where no matter how much I want to do something, I physically can't. It won't let me. I've heard it described as a burner. You can have a burner on the stove or in the oven, and it's hot, or especially one like a gas stove where you can see the flame. And so you can see the flame, and you could put your hand in there, but your body's not going to let you. And as soon as the burner's off, you can touch it, it's cold, but your body won't let you harm it, let you harm yourself. Most normal people, anyway. I realize realize that's not true for everybody. But by and large, this metaphor of this burner, putting your hand in the burner, that's executive dysfunction, where it's like there's a task, but it's not near the extreme. There's a task, say like, I need to put my laundry away. But no matter what I try to do, no matter what I do, I physically cannot make my body put that laundry away because it thinks it feels like it's that burner. So I have the capability of doing something, I just don't have the ability to actually do it. And I think a lot of people with ADHD and other forms of executive dysfunction understand that and feel the same way. And so originally when I was talking about medication, we'd been looking at some of that, ADHD and that kind of thing like that. My nurse had mentioned that I probably have a mild case of it, or relatively mild, and I've just been able to manage it well enough. But that's not been true anymore. And now the depression is kind of stepping to the side, at least. It's no longer in the spotlight. It might be sharing the spotlight, but it's not the sole thing in the spotlight. I've noticed that my energy levels are still very, very low. I'm still always tired. It's really hard for me to concentrate on things, to focus on things. It's also hard to like task switch. Like I said, like Erica want to talk to me about something or want to show me something, and I'll get this thing in my head that, oh, I've got to go take out the garbage now. I've got to go do this thing in the fridge now. I've got to go do the dishes now. And that can be a struggle because it's the wrong time and place to do something like that. Like, it needs to get done, but not right then, you know? But it fixates in my mind and I can't stop until that fixation is done. And that's a challenge, and that's tough, and it's hard. It's hard for her, and it's hard for me. This is one of those things where, like, the title of today's episode is called Taking Space, and it's after a poem I wrote. I'll read it here in a minute. Because the whole gist of it is this idea that, you know, I'm fine when you're not really fine. And we do that a lot at work when we don't feel like talking, even to our significant others when we don't feel like getting into it more. It's a type of a mask that we put on. It's a way that we hide how we're feeling. We hide who we are, how we are. And yeah. So I'll go ahead and read the poem that we can talk more about this. So this is Taking Space. It's easy to say I'm fine. Everything is okay and I'll be all right. It's hard to mean it. To sit straight, pull the slouch taut and snap it, to stare eye to eye and to not lie. Easy to say I'm just tired. I've not been sleeping well, you see. Because how do you say that you spend your nights staring at the starless ceiling and praying to a God you don't believe in for the energy to close your eyes and sleep? To calm the disgustingly loud quiet that ripples across a waterless pond? How do you say that you are a paradox, a blend, an oxymoron, a passionless fake that simply exists in the indentation of a bed in a room that isn't yours? You could be a ghost, but a ghost wouldn't worry this much about being alive or dead or whether saying I'm fine burns like it was spoken by an exorcist. So I wrote this poem when I was struggling with this concept of feeling fine, and it's this idea that I was just talking about where I feel constantly tired, like I don't have energy, like you're trying to sleep but you don't have the energy to sleep, and it's like, how do you really explain something like that when you're so tired and all you want to do is to sleep, but you don't even have the energy to do that? Like, that's a whole different level of tired that I'm not sure a lot of people can understand, and it's hard to explain. It's even hard to understand for myself, and I experience it. But yeah, and that's where it becomes this thing where it's easy to say I'm fine. Because when other people ask us, oh, hey, how's everything going? It's easier to say I'm fine. It's easier to lie, because if you don't say you're fine, then you have to explain why you're not okay. And most people, especially coworkers, when you ask them, they ask you about that. It's not that they don't really care. They're not asking because they want to really know how you're feeling. They're asking because it's considered polite. It's the greeting. Instead of like, hi, it's how are you? Or how's it going? Like, we need to kind of change that greeting, I think. Either that or be willing to really accept what people say. Because the truth is, not everybody's fine. and that's okay. But there's this expectation that you lie when people ask you that question because nobody really wants to know how you're doing. But that doesn't mean that we mean it, and that makes it all the more difficult sometimes. Like, it's hard to mean it, to sit straight, pull the slouch taut, and snap it. So to sit up straight and have your spine so straight you can snap it because of how taut it is. It's all a show. It's putting on that facade, that mask, and just pretending, saying that you're tired because of you're not sleeping well. Because how do you say you're tired because you're tired? How do you say that you're tired because you don't have the energy to be tired? How do you say that and not have people it's a struggle. It's difficult. And I think one of my favorite parts about this poem is because how do you say that you spend your nights staring at the starless ceiling? Because I always remember, like, I had a few of them when I was a kid, I think, and then I had friends that did and cousins that did, and I'm sure plenty of you did too when you were a kid. You might even still have them now today, and that's fine. The glow-in-the-dark sticky stars that you put on your ceiling that would glow, and you turn off the light, and you've got this nice, pretty night sky above your head, but when you're an adult, a lot of that magic goes away, and you end up with a boring ceiling, and so you're staring at a blank ceiling because it's a reminder of a childhood that isn't anymore. It's a reminder that you're an adult. It's a reminder that you have to deal with life, and you can't just exist. You have to do more than exist. Because unfortunately, we can't always just take time off. We can't always just not go to work. Because now we've got bills to pay. We've got a roof to keep over our head, our bellies to keep full of food, and sometimes we have people or pets that rely on us, children, animals, significant others. One of my dogs is currently upside down and napping and living her best life on the couch. But I have to take care of her too, dog food and treats and all that fun stuff. So there are days when you have to go to work, and there are days when you have to be an adult even when you don't want to be, even when you can't be. And it's disgusting to me how we expect that, how we allow that to be the ask that we give people, that we have this expectation that regardless, that no matter what, you've got to be an adult, you've got to get through, you've got to do it. Like, you can't just take a mental health day. And there are a lot of people that can't afford to just take time off anyway, because you might not have PTO. You might work at a job where you get paid by the hour, and any time you miss is time out of your paycheck. Or you might work for a company that doesn't understand. I know that's a lot, and a lot of people keep it quiet. Like, there are certain positions and certain industries, certain professions where you just lie about how you're doing because it looked bad and you could get fired, or you could hurt your future prospects, or parents of the kids that you teach could think that you're not a good teacher, or any number of things that way, and you just struggle. You just struggle. And that's where, towards the end of the poem, it makes that shift, because you don't really feel like yourself. You're an indentation in a bed in a room that isn't yours. But you don't even have that luxury. Like, you could be a ghost, but a ghost wouldn't worry this much about being alive or dead, or whether saying "I'm fine" burns like it was spoken by an exorcist. Because if you're a ghost, you just accept that you're a ghost and it wouldn't matter anymore. But we are in that in-between state where we're alive and not dead, but we're tired. Oh, so tired. And how do you deal with that? And honestly, that's why I named this poem Taking Space. Because sometimes you have to be able to just take the space for yourself. And whether that's being able to take a day off of work, whether that's being able to take some time on your lunch break to just be yourself, be to yourself, take a nap, write a poem, write a story, just do whatever, unplug, get away from everybody, like whatever you have to do. We have to cope in this world, and it's unfortunate, and I wish that we didn't. Like, I've said it before, I'll continue to say it, I'll always say it. We need to normalize mental health. We need to normalize talking about mental illness. We need to normalize being okay with it. We need to normalize being open and vulnerable and honest. We need to normalize being emotional and expressing emotion. And it has to be okay to not be okay. Because some days you just literally have nothing else left in you. So, I hope you can take some space for yourself, because you deserve it.